Governor Winter, you are credited in the history of your tenure as being one of the first governors in Mississippi who understood how to go over the heads of the legislature directly to the people. To do that, you worked closely with the old media, and as one of the young people in that pack when you were going through, you generally got by with us on a handshake. You would talk, particularly you would talk with me in the understanding of off the record. Off the record was if the pad and the pen were down, you would discuss issues, and your expectation was that the off the record comments remained off the record and that the on the record comments remained on the record. That rarely exists anymore in the media. I find it increasingly difficult to get by on trust relationships. The senator, although a little more reserved perhaps than you, he got by on that relationship with the media too. With TMZ, with Twitter, with all these other new media tools, that kind of relationship between a public official and the press is increasingly less possible or probable. How would the senator have dealt with that?
He wouldn't have liked it. I think most of us in this room would agree that a system of mutual respect in terms of responding to the media and responding by the media is a better system than one where it's a gotcha mentality. We'll seek to embarrass you in any way we can. Senator Stennis regarded politics as a noble profession. He took politics and the institutions of the Senate seriously. He took them seriously. He did not take himself seriously, but he took the institution that he served seriously. And anything that demeaned the dignity of public institutions and public officials, I think distressed him. Can you imagine, for example, Senator Stennis appearing on Saturday Night Live, letting himself be perceived as some kind of buffoon? He thought that people needed to maintain, to create and maintain and sustain a level of respect of their public officials, and he expected public officials to conduct themselves in a way that they would not lend opportunity to be demeaned. So he was committed to seeing to it that our political system worked as well as it could, and that it could not work well unless there was a mutual respect between political figures, public figures, and the press and the people. Now, of course, we had buffoons in those days too, but it was senators like Stennis who I think upheld the dignity of government, and I think we have lost a lot of that. And I think Senator Stennis would have been lost in this new method of communication.
All right, let's change topics.
Could I add just a second on this topic?
Certainly.
Because we have a real life indication of how you would respond to Sid's question. True, he didn't live and campaign in the age of Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, but he did campaign, and he did live in the era of television. And in this sense, I just returned from law school, and I watched the 1982 campaign for Senate when he was running for re-election, and there was a Republican nominee who I should not name, but who has risen since to heights of lofty political consequence. And I watched that campaign very carefully, and I remember it as being called the empty chair campaign. where there was a mock debate, and you had the Republican nominee in real time, live on TV, and there was an empty chair when it came to the Democratic nominee. The nominee was Senator Stennis, who did not appear. And so I guess the perception, proposed perception, was to create a caricature of the senator as someone aged and feeble and unable to respond nimbly to that particular episode. And I think that tactic backfired because the senator not only did not appear, but I think that the way he treated it by not responding, in the day's times, we would go to the war room, we would put out a statement, we would respond, we would get all in a huff and very upset with the other candidates' tactics, but he did not respond. My memory of it is that he did not respond on the record, off the record. He didn't get his own TV commercials. He just didn't respond. He was impervious to the other candidates' attempts to portray him as something much less than he was, upholding the standards of politics and office and becoming a statesman, because he was a statesman, not necessarily at that time just a politician. So I think that whole effort backfired on the other candidate, and so that's how we know now how he would respond to attempts of excessive partisanship. He was the adult in the room. He was the circuit judge, right? He was the E.F. Hutton guy. The commercial, what would E.F. Hutton do? Everybody always wanted to know what he would do when it comes to those issues, particularly those issues of ethics and decorum and demeanor, which is why they selected him as the first standing chairman of the Committee on Standards and Conduct of the U.S. Senate. So he was always the one, straight-laced, who they would come to for a very appropriate and practical resolution of a problem without regard to the vicissitudes of the media.